We're here to talk about storytelling for better fundraising. I have so many goodies to share with you today. Is it okay, Abby, if I just start rocking and rolling?
Oh, go for it.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So this is me. My name is Rachel Muir. I've spent my entire career in fundraising and love every minute of it. I started a nonprofit to empower girls in math, science, engineering, and technology called Girl Start, which still exists and it's still thriving. And when I'm not helping people be better at their fundraising, I'm raising my twins. Friends, we are in day 3 of virtual school. I don't have my webcam on, but hopefully everything goes off like seamlessly without a hitch today. We've got more people than usual, all on the Wi-Fi with the kids in school, but my love and virtual hugs to all the parents out there. And I hope that you guys are all safe and healthy and happy right now. I'm so excited to be with you. I train people to be better at their fundraising, and today that is 100% virtual. I do virtual workshops. I do an awesome membership program I'm going to show you a little bit later in today's presentation and invite you to join if you're interested in that. You can download today's slides at rachelmuir.com/handouts. I absolutely love doing webinars. I can do webinars every day. That would be like a dream come true. So you're in for a treat today because I've got so many goodies to get you thinking about storytelling, entertained with storytelling, and inspired about storytelling, especially as we get closer to end of year fundraising. So once again, you can grab today's slides. I have them up. I have them ready for you. If you want to put your sticky mitts on them right now, you can download them at rachelmuir.com/handouts. I'm going to mention a little bit later today, a little bit about a program that I launched right at the beginning of the pandemic, which is a membership program where every month I do a workshop for members in my program. It's a lot of fun, and we are going to be digging completely into end of year fundraising in September and October. So if you want some help and you want some coaching from me, you can find out more at leagueofextraordinaryfundraisers.com, and I'll be sharing a little bit more about that later on today. I always bring my own party favors, and the party favor that I have for you today is a really great mini ebook on stewarding and cultivating donors in a virtual world. So that is where you can download it, rachelmuir.com/virtual. And I invite you to grab that because one of the things that you can do right now to make sure that you have a fantastic year end is to do some really great stewardship for your donors. And that guide will give you lots of innovative, out of the box ideas to successfully do that virtually. So this is all the fun that we are going to be having today, my friends. We're going to be talking about storytelling, and I'm going to be sharing great top secrets of great storytelling, the 3 ingredients to any story. I'm going to show you some really great storytelling examples. I'm going to give you some tips, especially for end of year, for your storytelling for end of year. I'm going to show you a storytelling makeover. I'm going to give you some tips for how you can build a culture of storytelling at your own nonprofit. And I have some bonuses. I've got some story starters, and I have some super awesome videos. So I'm not going to tend the tech gremlins. I'm going to play those videos for you at the end. You are invited to type in your questions anytime today, and I will answer them at the end, but stick around until the bitter end because I've got some really awesome videos that hopefully we will have enough time to share with you. Again, you can type in questions anytime into the chat or into the questions box. And one of my questions for you right now is this you? Like, have you ever, like, do you feel like maybe you feel like you're good at storytelling, and then all of a sudden you sit down to like write a story and you just feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is too hard. I literally have like writer's block. Just type yes into the chat if that is you. I feel like people think that storytelling is really, really easy until they sit down to write a story, and it's really, really hard. And if it was easy, Abby and I would not be doing a webinar about this. It's hard to write really, really great, compelling stories. So type yes if you have ever seen Toy Story or Finding Nemo or Wall-E. If you've seen any of those movies, I was like, yes, let's go to Disney and Pixar, the happiest place on earth. So type yes if you have ever heard of Andrew Stanton. This is a photo that you're looking at of Andrew Stanton. So most people right now are like, nope, never heard of him. He co-wrote those movies. And what Andrew Stanton has a TED Talk, and in his TED Talk, he talks about the greatest story commandment of all time, which is 3 words: make me care. We all know what it feels like not to care. And type yes if you watch, if you follow Honey on Facebook, Humans of New York. Every day, every image that Humans of New York shares and every story behind those images makes us care. And this is what we're going for as fundraisers, because ultimately, at the end of the day, fundraising is a quest for empathy. Emotion is like catnip to your fundraising, and stories make your reader feel something. The more emotion and the more drama and the more dramatic the arc of your story, the more empathy your readers are going to have for you. And type in yes if you want your donors to have more empathy for your organization, for your cause. You absolutely want that. Absolutely. Emotion is a love potion in fundraising. And this is why we want to use emotion in our fundraising. And this is why storytelling is so incredibly powerful. Stories are universal. Our brains are literally wired for stories. Our brains are literally like the way that our brains are structured, the prefrontal cortex, we're wired to understand stories. Our whole history is around stories and using stories from the drawings, caveman drawings in caves. This is how we originated as humans, through understanding stories. And the more absorbed we are in a story, the more it changes us. We can read facts with skepticism, but we let go of that skepticism when we're engaged in a story. So this is a book all about behavioral economics, thinking fast and slow. And this gentleman won the Nobel Prize in economics, but he's not an economist, but this is about behavioral economics. We can think, and yes, we're smart, but we'd prefer not to have to. Humans are to thinking as cats are to swimming. And this is why stories are so incredibly uniquely powerful, because they help us, build this bridge to understanding complicated things, and they help us feel something. And that's what motivates us to get out our wallets. We have to make our donors feel in order to give. This is a great ad from Plan UK. This girl's looking at us straight on. Remember your first period, leaving school, getting married, having your first child, and Nini does, she's 12. Wow, that is so powerful. That headline and that image are so powerful. We don't want this outcome for this little girl. We want her to have a great life as a 12-year-old girl. We don't want that for her. So don't hold back when using emotion in your fundraising. Emotion helps our brains navigate alternatives. It helps us make decisions. Yes, we can think when we have to, but stories help us make decisions, and people give for emotional reasons. We don't give for logical reasons. We give for emotional reasons. I love this quote from Jeff Brooks. Give your cat food, give your donors emotional information. Emotions truly are your donor's love potion. I look at this image right here and I know right away what I'm seeing is the mother and child reunion, and I can feel the intensity of this moment just gripping me the moment I see it. Just the tears in the mother's eyes, her coming back and hugging her daughter. Emotions, this is catnip to your fundraising. This is, don't feel manipulative using emotion in your fundraising. It is, in fact, my fundraising friends, the only thing that works. I recently heard of an organization that my friend was telling about, not naming names. It was an organization in the animal care space, and they prided themselves on not doing that quote unquote Sarah McLachlan stuff with their fundraising. You need to use emotion in your fundraising. great fundraising has lots of emotion in it. And using emotion in your fundraising is not manipulative, it is not unethical, it is oxygen to your fundraising. So when your donor is reading your appeal, they're asking themselves a couple of questions. They're asking themselves, why should I care? And they're asking themselves, why should I give now? So in our fundraising, we need to be using emotion to give our donors a reason to care, a reason to be involved, and we need to use urgency to help them understand why they need to give now. So the 3 ingredients to any story is a character, their desire, and a conflict. And I'm going to share a story a little bit later at the end, an awesome video from the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta that really speaks to these 3 ingredients. If there's anything I see that's like a consistent mistake that I see among nonprofit storytelling, it's not using enough conflict or multiple conflicts, and it's not making the character vulnerable enough, right? So what makes a character vulnerable is their own weaknesses. I'm going to give you a really quick Disney example. Up, remember Up? So when we first meet Carl, like in 30 seconds, well, actually, I think it's maybe 60 seconds, we see the great loves of this man's life. We see the highs, we see the lows, we see the love story growing up with Ellie, Carl and Ellie getting married, Ellie growing up, not getting married, not being able to have kids, them living a beautiful life, her passing away. We're taking on this incredibly emotional journey. The rest of the movie, Carl he hates kids. He's a really mean, like grumpy guy. But we are hooked into him, hook, line, and sinker, because we've seen his great love and we've seen his great loss. And it's that vulnerability in your character that makes people care and that invests them in your story. Let's take Woody, for example, from Toy Story. When we first meet Woody, he is being such a jerk. He's like bossing all the other toys around, and he's telling the toys to, march into the toy box. And it isn't until we see that Andy has this new toy, Buzz Lightyear, and how much he loves Buzz, and we see this moment where Woody is like pulling on his pull string as a toy, that we really see Woody's vulnerability. So your characters need vulnerability, and they need to have a desire, and there needs to be conflict. And you can have multiple conflicts in your story. And I'm going to show you an arc of a storyline a little bit later too. So I've got some storytelling tips. I've got 3 storytelling tips for you guys for end of year fundraising. And I'm going to start with the most important one of all, which is getting your readers from the get-go. The very first gift that anyone gives us, any of our donors give us, whether it's email, whether it's direct mail, the very first gift they give us is their attention. And folks, attention is not free. There are a lot of things competing for our attention. And so you having a provocative opening, and you having a great subject line, if it's an email appeal, and of course a great opening in your email as well, and a great outer envelope for your direct mail piece as well. All of these are really, really critical to your end of year fundraising. You need to have the first gift is their attention. You need to catch their attention with something provocative. So to illustrate this, this is just an image of a baby bottle. This is from Charity Water. And I just share this because this is an image, and instantly you look at that and you're like, oh, I don't want any baby drinking that. You just look at that and you just absolutely know. So this is a pretty provocative opening. This is the end of year appeal. This is a planned giving appeal. But imagine if you got a letter, imagine this, how much of your life savings would you like to leave in the hands of state and federal governments? Well, none, absolutely none. This is a really provocative way in a planned giving letter to make you think and take action. And of course, with planned giving, the enemy there is putting it off. And it's kind of similar to end of year, because with end of year, the enemy is like, well, I could put anything off, you know? So why should I give now? Why is it important for me to give now? So you need to have a provocative opening. It needs to be simple. It needs to make sense. It needs to be easy to digest. Simple, easy to digest, and memorable. So this is an example. And I share this as a really provocative headline. It's simple, it's easy to digest, it's easy to read. Two babies, and this is from my friend Tammy Zonker at the Children's Center in Detroit. Two babies at 16 is not good. Neither is having the stepfather be your dad. So this is kind of like the example with Anini, where you don't want this outcome. This kind of shocks you with this heading. So this I also share this because this is also an example of, if you can't use photographs, you can use silhouettes. Sometimes I hear from organizations that are like, well, my biggest obstacle with my end of year fundraising is I can't use actual photographs of my clients. That's okay. You can use stock photos. We used stock photos a lot at Girl Start, and we acknowledge it as such. Don't use like the #1 stock photo, the very first one that you find on the most popular site, because a lot of people are going to be using that. But you can use silhouettes if you can't use actual photos. So I'm going to share some examples, and this is an example from an acquisitional mailing. So this is from a website called Sophie, and it's SOFII.org. Sophie is a treasure trove of fantastic fundraising examples. And you can go to Sophie and you can search for any kind of examples that you want. It is a treasure trove. So many great resources that are there for you. So I want to stress that, you know, you don't have to write all of your appeals yourself. You do not have to do that. You can hire a copywriter. It is really, really challenging to write fantastic appeals. And if you are like new to fundraising and you're wondering, gosh, how do people do this? How did this letter right here be so successful? Well, this is written by a fundraising expert and a copywriter. Yeah, Megan, the name, it's Sophie, SOFII.org. This is a really great appeal. This was an acquisitional mailing. The author was Harvey McKinnon. Amazing, amazing author, expert fundraising copywriter. They raised $1.59 for every dollar spent, which is like revolutionary in terms of an acquisition. They had a response rate of over 2%. And so I'm going to show you just a few things in this letter that I want to draw your attention to. The first thing is this extremely powerful lead. There is absolutely nothing worse than watching your 3-year-old child die. Then there's this really unexpected sentence afterwards, and there's nothing better than stealing her back from heaven. So, and then the third sentence, my daughter Carly came back from certain death thanks to people like you. Well, who wouldn't want to be part of a group that could do something as absolutely wonderful as saving a child's life? So you can go to Sophie and you can read this entire like 4-page direct mail piece. There's lots of, one of the things that I want to stress that happens in this piece is I only took a screenshot of the first page for you, but there's a lot of conflict in it. It really walks you through all of the challenges that they had in their journey with their child, getting a cancer diagnosis and beating a cancer diagnosis. But this opening sentence, it's terrifying, but it's going to make you read it. And if you think about any book that you pick up, if it doesn't grab your attention from the beginning, you absolutely put it down. So at the Make-A-Wish Foundation, they have 2 different kinds of stories. They have stories about kids who aren't going to make it, and this is about making their wish come true. And in more rare instances, they have stories of kids who do make it, and this is a story of a kid who made it. And the letter tells the ups and downs of Carly's journey. There's a lot of conflict. There's a chance she's only given a 20% chance to live, and so we're invested in this story and we're invested in this outcome. This 4th paragraph, you can see these are really short sentences in these paragraphs that make it a lot easier for the reader to read. This, I hope you'll give me 1 minute of your time because I'm not a fundraiser, I'm a parent. And when I tell you my story, I think you'll realize that you can make miracles happen. That ellipsis makes us hook into the next paragraph. And using us makes us feel like we're a part of another community, a community of parents or a community of grandparents. And then this last paragraph here, my daughter was a perfectly healthy child. One day she got a bad fever. This tells us this could happen to anyone. So writing and fundraising, I want to stress, it's different. You know, I don't know, type yes into the questions box if you've ever been in a situation where, you know, I've spent my entire career in fundraising, and I have had frustrating experiences with board members. And sometimes I've had board members who I felt like they were kind of quote unquote like playing nonprofit. And, you know, they didn't really take all of the things about it seriously. You can type yes into questions if you've ever kind of felt like that. The language that's used in fundraising is different. It is different than the language that's used in any other industry. It's casual, it's personal, it's urgent, it's repetitive. And I just want to stress that if this were easy, I wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be doing a webinar about storytelling. This is another example. This is actually written by a copywriter that I know. And this is an example of, you know, it's an unexpected story outcome. When Jessica and her son Mark took refuge at Women's Space 20 years ago, neither understood the impact 1 week would have on the rest of their lives. And it talks about the mom was hoping that their son wouldn't remember this time in her lives, but what she didn't realize is that her son remembers this week as one of the best times. So we're not expecting this to be the outcome, and that's kind of a hook. And I want to stress, like, it is hard. It's hard to think like a donor. It's hard to think like other people. This is why we have marriage counseling, but it's hard to think like a donor. It's hard to write winning email appeals or direct mail appeals. This is why there are full-time fundraising copywriters that do this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some more examples to get you inspired. Compelling individual stories. This is a very difficult letter for me to write, but if telling you my story could help find my missing son or prevent another child's abduction, I will gladly accept the heartache it brings me. So an extremely compelling personal story that you would glean from doing an interview with one of your clients. This is an example of a direct mail piece that I got. This is a very personal story. The executive director of this organization was a victim of abuse, and she starts out this story with, you know someone who's been abused, even if you don't know who it is. And then she shares her own story. And on the next page of her appeal, she has a photo with her two sons hugging her and each giving her a kiss on the cheek now. So this is a very personal story. Oh, yay. Amanda is in Eugene, Oregon, where Women's Space is. I love Women's Space as well. Great organization. So this is a really personal story, and it's her own personal story that she shared. This is a great example of giving the donor a role in the story. When they see themselves in this story, in the Make-A-Wish example that I just shared a couple minutes ago, you know, the message in that story is you can make miracles happen. When I tell you my story, I think you'll realize that you can make miracles happen. So it's giving the donor a role in the story, and you see that in this appeal from Food for the Poor as well. She needs your protection. Their lives depend on you. Notice the use of you. You want to use emotion liberally in your story, and you also want to use you. Now, this is an extremely powerful story, and I had the pleasure of seeing this, Alan Clayton present this at a Bridge conference a few years ago. And this is, you know, all of these stories that I'm sharing with you, well, most of these stories that I've shared so far, it was an interview. The copywriter did an interview with someone, and that is how they unearthed the story. And this is an example of a story. The nurse actually contributed this story from her relationship with a parent. And so it's a process of unpacking these stories and identifying these stories. And I'm going to show you some examples that you can use in your organization to create more of a culture around storytelling. But this is a really powerful story, and this story really gets to the whole mission of what this organization is. It isn't that they can't save their child from dying, but they can choose through this children's hospice how they say goodbye to their child and how they have those lasting memories and how they get to say goodbye. So this is another idea for you, starting in the middle of the action. I'm going to when I, at the very end here, I'm going to give you some examples of some story starters. And one of those ideas is that you can start in the middle of action, because that really grips the reader in from the beginning into something that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, walking in and there's a movie happening, and you can't, when you're reading a book, when you're watching a movie, when you're engaged in a story, you can't distinguish between yourself and the protagonist. You experience everything that the protagonist is experiencing. So let me tell you about Julia. When the ambulance brought her to the emergency room, all she could move were her eyes. 12 years old, period. Hit and run, period. So descriptive details, extremely short sentences. So I love these questions, and I will definitely get these questions at the end. And Natalie asked one that I'll answer really quick right now. She said, how important is it to have the letter be addressed to the donor? It is absolutely, you want to personalize as much as you possibly can in your fundraising communication. You want to use the donor's first name. You don't want to just use dear friend. You want to use the donor's first name. Telling stories is the virtual equivalent of taking your donors on a field trip. And that goes for storytelling in your end of year appeal, that goes for storytelling in your newsletter, that goes for storytelling in your stewardship, that goes for storytelling when you invite your donors to an activity or an event and they can't come, and you give them a description of it that's so good they feel like they're there live. These are some ideas to kind of like get your juices flowing with different kinds of stories that you might think about. Maybe it's chronicling a student's improvement, or following a teen mom, sharing a day in the life of one of your clients, or the child of your clients, or a volunteer, or even a day in the life from an unexpected narrator, like an inanimate object. Just some ideas to get your juices flowing. My second tip for you on end of year storytelling is tell your donors in your appeal what their gift will accomplish. It needs to be something tangible. This is referred to as the offer in your fundraising appeal, and it needs to be something tangible, because I need to feel like my gift is actually going to be able to make a difference. That's going to motivate me and inspire me to give. So this is telling me 15 pounds gives 10 homeless people a nutritious weekly lunch. 30 pounds is a hot cup of tea and breakfast for 20 homeless people. So this is an example of storytelling where it is vague. It doesn't tell me what my gift is going to do. The problem is so big, it doesn't feel like I could really make an impact here. And what am I greeting with? Like, type in what the difference that you see right off the bat without reading one sentence. What do you see as a difference between this appeal and the other appeals that I shared with you earlier? For example, the appeal that I shared with you from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Awesome, Sally nailed it. She said long paragraphs. Natalie said no greeting. Okay, yeah. So really long paragraphs. This is like a great wall of text. Another distinguishing thing is that this is written at probably like a 12th grade reading level. And there's and we don't want to do that with our appeals. We want it to be, and I, you know, our donors are smart and you guys are smart, but we're not here to prove how smart we are. We're here to use really great, easy to read language that helps our donor read our appeal and feel the impact of our appeal. And we want to write at like a 6th grade reading level. That's what our newspaper is written at a 6th grade reading level. And that's what we want to write. And I love this comment from Lauren. She said, where is the use of you to pull the reader in? Absolutely. So this is like a great big wall of text, lots of text right there. And big doesn't motivate, solvable does. When you tell me, you know, like $20 is going to do X, $50 is going to do X, that's what motivates me. We want to give our donors, we're not here to train our donors. I don't need to go to medical school to understand how I can make a difference here. I need a problem. I need to be the one that solves it, and it needs to be a problem that I actually feel like I can solve, like I can actually do something and come in and be the hero. Which brings me to my point number 3, which is that the donor is the hero. This isn't you. The donor is the hero. So this is now available to everyone. I think this may have just been available to Bloomerang clients, but you can go to bloomerang.co/Ahern audit after the fantastic and fabulous Tom Ahern, and you can input your copy and it will literally give you a score, and it's going to score you on a couple of different things. It's going to score you on how many times you use you, and it's also going to score you on your reading level. So this is written at 11th grade reading level. And yes, Byron, you want to be aiming for a 6th grade reading level. So do the U test. Everything that you send me in the mail, this is a reflection. Your donor sees themselves in your communications. So how good do they look, right? How good do they look? So this is something that I want you guys to think about. This is an example from an appeal. So this is a really great book written by the fantastic Jeff Brooks, How to Turn Your Words into Money. He also wrote the Fundraiser's Guide to Irresistible Communications, both fantastic books about storytelling, about appeals, about what works and what doesn't work. This is a science, and there are real things that work. And fundraising copywriting is different than any other kind of copywriting. But I share this example because this is an appeal, but this is an appeal that uses you, and and I mentioned to you just a second ago that your communications are a mirror to your donor. So how do you feel when you read this? When you see a homeless person sitting on a park bench or sleeping under a bridge, you wonder what you should do. That's the kind of person you are. It's making a really big statement about what kind of a caring, compassionate person that I am. And it's making the donor the hero. So Lindsay asked, how can the donor be the hero? This is a really great example of having the donor be the hero. So I'm going to share some secrets to telling really great story. I'm going to give you guys some storytelling tips, and I'm going to show you some examples of some storytelling makeovers. So one of the things that I want to stress to you guys is I mentioned using emotion in your fundraising, and I mentioned, and we're just going to go back to Disney, back to having all the feels. Abby and I were talking about having all the feels just in 2020, but this is an emotional journey, and there's an arc to your story, and I'm going to show you the shape of stories in just a second. We can actually map stories on a grid, and we can show the arc of stories and the conflict and the misery and the challenges. And one of the consistent things, I mentioned this earlier, the consistent things that I see where there's mistakes in storytelling is there isn't the main character. We're not invested enough in the main character because we don't have enough descriptive details about them, or we haven't been seen them with a big moral dilemma, or we haven't seen their vulnerability to be invested in really caring about them. And the other thing that I see is we don't see enough of the emotional journey of taking us through having all the feels. And, you know, if you think about Nemo, I mentioned Finding Nemo a second ago, and I know a lot of you said that you've seen Finding Nemo. There's a couple of really big conflicts that are going on in Finding Nemo. There's the immediate short-term conflict of Dory, who has short-term memory loss and can't remember who Nemo is or who Marlin is or what's going on. And then there's this bigger conflict of, wow, is this father-son reunion like ever gonna happen? Are these fish ever going to be reunited? So good stories have conflict. You need that. It's the conflict that makes us invested in it. Think about your story like a movie with a beginning and a middle and an end. Short, we're going to use vivid language. We're going to use some descriptive details about our characters in our story. Fewer words, I'm sorry, that should say words, not works. Fewer words build trust. We're going to lead with a central character. And the best stories make complex ideas simple. And the stories about the cause of the client, the donor is the hero. The donor is the one who saves it, who comes in and saves the day. So I'm going to share an example of, this is the shape of story. So if you think about any movie you've seen, if you think about any romance, any rom-com, there's this arc, like boy loses girl, boy finds girl, boy loses girl again, they're reunited, right? And Cinderella, like there's this arc to this conflict, and it ends with this happily ever after. So it's interesting. Kurt Vonnegut was actually in applied to graduate school, and his thesis was that we could look at the stories from different cultures and that we could plot them on a graph to better understand them, and that was at least as interesting as studying, you know, unearthed clay pots or arrowheads or other things to understand a culture. And he didn't get in with that thesis. So I always like to remind my kids of, like, you know, winning failures, because life is full of that, right? And we have to be strong. So one of the things that you're going to need to do is not just tell it, but show it. And so I'm going to share an example of that. So I'm going to show you a storytelling makeover really quickly. So this is the before. So a woman with keratoconus was helped by her agency. Doctors couldn't help her, but finally an ophthalmologist in her community was trained. He did a cornea transplant for her. Now she can see better. So this is just telling. This is showing. So tell me, type in what you think is different between these two stories, between the one I just read you and the one that you're reading now. Type into the questions box what you see is different. And Kenny, the link to the Bloomerang is bloomerang.co/Ahern audit, AHERN audit. So great. So Joan said it's personalized. Megan says there's a character, it makes it personal. Christina said there's a name of the person. Kate said this really draws me in. Gretchen said it's immediately personalized. And I love what Yesenia said. It gives a lot more background on Maria. It does. And it gives us more background to understand it, because we see from birth, her vision has been the equivalent of what we see when we look into a blurry, foggy bathroom mirror. Thanks to our generous donors like you, we did this transplant. Immediately afterwards, Maria saw the faces of her 7 and 9-year-old boys for the very first time. So I love what Kate said. It's more intimate, it's more emotional. Sally said it connects the surgery to the family. Lori said, I think it's better. Lori said, I know Lori's a critic here. She said, I think it's better, but it could be shorter words. And I love what Tawanta, I don't know if I said your name right, beginning, middle, and a good ending. And I love what Maya said, the donor is the hero. Absolutely, way to go, you guys. So I'm gonna share some tips for you guys to create a culture of storytelling at your organization. And then I'm gonna give you some story starters. And then I'm gonna share a couple of really awesome videos to show you guys some power of storytelling. So I totally get it. I've been in your shoes. I'm a recovering executive director. And yes, I will admit it. We used to, at Girl Start, literally ask programs, hey, tell me a really great story. I mean, like, tell me a story that would, like, make our donors just tear up. Just give me the story that's a real tearjerker, okay? Like, that's ridiculous. That's a lot of pressure to put on your program colleagues. It's a lot of pressure. So we don't want to put them on the spot like that. Instead of asking them for stories that are going to be tearjerkers, we want to ask them questions. We want to interview them so that we can build those stories. Who did you turn away? What made them come to us? How could we help them? How were we not able to help them? There's a whole story around that. Is there anyone who you met that made you feel so proud that we exist? Another thing that you need to do in addition to not asking them directly for stories, but interviewing them and asking them questions instead is have a culture of storytelling at your organization. Kick off your staff meetings or your board meetings with a really great story. Add storytelling to the employee job description so that, you know, you're giving your employees, you know, we ask that part of this job as program director is being on the front lines and collecting stories of the clients that we serve and sharing those stories in blog posts and collecting those stories in surveys and collecting those stories on social media and sharing those stories with other staff. Reward great storytelling. One of the things that we did at Girl Start is we had a cowbell, and programs would give us a great story. We would interview them. We would come up with a really great story for the appeal. And every time gifts came in, we would have programs ring that cowbell. So they got to feel the power of the influence that they had bringing that storytelling and the success that we saw from sharing it. Be a model example of storytelling yourself and support training. We like to think that this is really, really easy, and sharing great examples like I'm doing today makes it look like it's really easy, but make no bones about it, it's hard work. It's hard work. So one of the other things that I want to invite you before I share these story starters and these awesome videos is invite you to think about what stories your donors want to hear. So when you think about Habitat for Humanity, I want to invite you to type into the questions box and tell me, what do you think of? What story? What is the first story that comes to mind when you think about Habitat for Humanity? Type in and tell me what story comes to mind. Okay, Victoria said the family's getting a house. Sally said making a home. Megan said Jimmy Carter. Lori said someone who's homeless. And I love what Marty said, families getting decent housing. This is all true, and I think about this too. Jody said starting over. What I think about, like many of you, is that moment, that moment, and Amanda kind of said it, mom's being able to foster a new home now that she's a homeowner. And Lo said home for the first time. I think about that moment, like this woman down here with the key in her hand. I think about that, what it must feel when you put the key in that lock and you turn that key and you open that door to your new home and what you see inside. And a lot of you might be like, yeah, that sounds like a super great story. But this is Habitat for Humanity, Greater San Francisco. What they found from talking to their donors, friends, is that the story that their donors wanted to hear was actually the story of the kids who grew up in a Habitat house. That was the story the donors wanted to hear. They didn't want the story of opening the front door. They wanted to hear what happened to those kids. Did they finish high school? Did they go to college? That's the story. And so they actually spent the whole for their whole editorial calendar, they told the stories of the kids who grew up in Habitat House, especially the stories of how that changed their life and the impact it had on their life. So I am going to go through a couple of story starters, and then I'm going to share. A lot of you asked about like some tips and some strategies. I'm going to share a way that you can work with me that I can assist you, and then I'm going to play some videos and of course answer your questions. So these are just some ideas for how you could start your story. You can start in the middle of action. You can open with a startling truth. You can start with a quote. You can use an unexpected narrator. Or you can also paint a picture. So just a few examples of different ways to start a story, and please feel free to type in your questions, and I'm going to ask Abby to flag the ones that I haven't answered yet. This is a really great gem. If you want to grab this, I super encourage all of you right now to be thinking about how you are stewarding your donors, because stewarding your donors now is going to have a dramatically important lift in your end of year fundraising example. So you can download that at rachelmuir.com/virtual. It has 21 different ideas for you for stewarding and cultivating donors now that we're in a completely virtual world. I'm going to mention this membership that I have. It's leagueofextraordinaryfundraisers.com. It's $49 a month, and every month we do a workshop. September and October are all about end of year fundraising, writing an appeal, what to send when, subject lines, how much email is too much email. We're Giving Tuesday. Should I do it? Should I doing it? We're going to be just digging in 100% for the next 2 months on end of year fundraising. So if you want a little bit of help with end of year fundraising, I'd love to have you. We do a workshop every month, and you also get access to all the prior workshops. It is worth 1.5 CFRE credits for all of the workshop. And I have a few folks that are in the program that actually do coaching with me every single week. So if you want coaching every single week, that is also an option as well. And I started this in April. So there's lots of awesome workshops that we've already covered that you get access to when you join, doing how to convert more online gives, how to use donor surveys to boost fundraising, how to change your board, writing winning email appeals, lots of really great content in there. So that's at leagueofextraordinaryfundraisers.com. And you can type in your questions. I'm going to go ahead and really quickly, I have 2 super fun videos to play for you guys. There's my email address if you've got questions. Again, it's leagueofextraordinaryfundraisers.com. It's a workshop every single month, and we cover all different topics. We're going to be digging in September and October, very big into end of year fundraising. This is where you can find the handouts for today, rachelmuir.com/handouts. I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of videos. So I'm going to be really fancy here. And I told Abby, I'm like, I'm going to wait till the end to play the videos because I don't want to tempt any tech gremlins. So I have a couple of super awesome videos I'm going to play before I answer your questions. And don't worry, we've got time. These are crazy short videos. The first one I'm going to play, I want to stress to you guys, there is no sound in this video. Okay, this is a 1-minute, really short video. I'm going to play it while I scan over all of your awesome questions for me in the questions box. But I want to stress this is a video with no sound, so please don't expect to actually hear anything because there isn't any sound. And it's a 1-minute. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you guys, this is a 1-minute video, okay? The other thing I want to share, this is your assignment while you're watching this video. It's 1 minute long. I want you to type into the questions box what you think this movie is about. Okay, so I'm going to play this video, crossing my fingers here with the tech gods. I'm going to play this video, and you're going to type into the questions box what you think it's about. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me now. So yeah, so a bully, domestic abuse, abusive relationships. It's so interesting because I have played this video so many different places and all of the answers are all over the board. And you're not, no, Bill said, is it terrible if I think it's about domestic violence? Not at all. So I have one more video for you guys and then I'm going to dig into your questions and I'm going to ask Abby to like flag the ones that, because we've had so much action in the questions box, maybe flag the ones that we haven't answered. And I'm going to show you one more video. This is adorable. This is, oh, I love Krista. Krista said that the video was about a home wrecker and Jan said it was about family interactions. And I love what Jenny said. Jenny said, what is it about? Jenny, it is about what you make it about. That's a really great example, is that we as humans create stories to understand our world. We are wired for stories and we use stories every day to understand and make sense of our world. So I'm going to play you one more video and you guys, this one is incredible. It's a little bit longer. It's just 3 minutes long, but stick with me to the end. I will answer all of your questions. Abby's flagging the ones I haven't answered yet. Enjoy this. It's fantastic.
This year for Christmas, What are you hoping to get?
A computer.
Big, giant Barbie house.
A trophy case.
An Xbox 360. Minecraft Legos.
What do you think your mom or dad want for Christmas?
My mom would probably want a ring. She's never really had a ring.
Jewelry. She loves jewelry. A new TV.
Like watches.
So, we actually did buy an Xbox 360.
What in the world? And what is this? Okay, you really got this for me?
A new laptop.
Wow.
And
It's a necklace.
So we also bought a necklace because you said you also wanted to get a necklace for your mom or your auntie. The catch is that you can either get a gift for yourself, or you can pick a gift for your mom and dad. I need you to pick one. Now before you answer, oh, I bet that's hard. Is that a really hard question?
Mm-hmm.
What gift do you pick?
I choose this.
I gotta go with the ring.
What gift do you pick?
That one. That one. That dress.
I'll choose this for my mom.
I'll choose this one.
It's a really tough question,
I'll
but
give him this.
you already know? Tell me why.
Because Legos don't matter. Your family matters. Not Legos, not toys, your family. So it's either family or Legos, and I choose family.
I get gifts every year from my family, and my mom don't get anything.
If I get a laptop, my mama will something. She helps me when I'm sick. She helps me with my homework.
She gave me a house to live in.
They look out for me and do stuff for me, so I need to give back to them.
Now I have the opportunity to give him something.
Because you actually picked the gift for your family, you're actually gonna go home with both. Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling really happy and thankful.
Just happy. Thankful for
For your family? For what?
my family, everything.
He did make his decision, actually. And he picked the Pandora charms.
Oh, that is you're gonna make me cry. So what are you gonna do for me? In your room. Oh, it's for me? Oh, it's so cute.
Thanks, guys.
I was going to.
Yay, did you guys love that video? I just think that's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my slides here. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my slides now. Yay, yay, we made the tech work, Abby. Okay, I've been going through and looking at your questions, and I'm gonna dig in and answer those right now. So I'm gonna start with a question from Sina. And Sina asked a question. She said, she's working with kids from the developing world, and she asked what kind of stories would work there. So kids who need help, how are they struggling? Why are they struggling? Why is the gift needed now? And what will the gift do? Those are stories that you could tell that would inspire your donors to give. Byron asked a really great question. He said, did you say write at a 6th grade reading level? Why write at a 6th grade reading level? Okay, so you're smart and your donors are smart, and we're not writing at a 6th grade reading level because people aren't smart. We're writing at think of writing at a 6th grade reading level as a courtesy, just like clearly enunciating your words, opening the door for someone, you know, cleaning the table after you leave a restaurant. Like, this is a courtesy that we're offering because we're making it easy to read. And you know what? Educated people and all people, but people are busy. People are really busy, and they're working and they're coming home, or they're like me, they're stuck at home, and you know, they're busy. And so we're doing them a courtesy by making this easy for them to read. So Rita said, I couldn't hear the words of the video and I was still crying. And Joanne said, oh my God, I'm bawling. That was really wonderful. It's such a good like end of year. And so let me just tell you that story and type in your question if I haven't answered it yet. But that story, that story has the 3 building blocks of the 3 critical ingredients of any story. It has character, it has conflict. That is what is in that story. It has the character, it has the desire, and it has the conflict. You know, their desire is, I want this Barbie dream house, but I also want my mom to have what she really wants. So there's this moral conflict, and everyone can relate to a moral conflict. It is what, in fact, so many movies are based on. So Julia asked, how did the Habitat Humanity find out the stories that their donors wanted to hear? They actually did, I believe that they did surveys, and I'm a big fan of doing donor surveys, but they found that out from doing donor surveys. Kim asked, what content can be used for a startup that advocates on behalf of returning citizens? I'm not sure what you mean by that question, Kim. I just want to say that, like, you know, as I said at the beginning of this, storytelling is hard. It's a lot of work. I hope that today you've gotten a lot of really great examples to inspire you. And yeah, you can find that example, the Boys and Girls Club, online. You can just search for it on YouTube. I had to save these as MP4s to be able to play them in this. But yeah, you can find them on YouTube. There was another question that came through about should I address my letter to a donor and use their name and use their address? And you absolutely should. The only reason why you may not have seen that in the examples I shared was I was just trying to take advantage of the real estate that I have on my slide and use as big a font as possible. So of course you're going to personalize, you're going to use their first name. Margie said, okay, sorry, I think I messed that up because you said anonymous and I just said your name. Well, I believe that we should let the fundraisers be the fundraisers. And you know what, if you're in a situation at your organization where you have a really great appeal and someone else has a maybe they've rewritten the appeal at a 12th grade reading level and you know that's not going to work, or maybe they took all the emotion out of the storytelling, send them both out, do a split A/B test and see which one works better. And I think you will, or you could you could send them out as email appeals so that you could track that better, or you could do them as direct mail appeals and just have different response codes. But if you're in a situation like that and your voice is being muffled, that is one way that you could do that. Great fundraisers do testing. Claudia said, our end of year is just passed. How can your coming monthly workshops be most useful? So this is about, so your fiscal year end is different than your donor's year end, which is December 31. And December 31 is the most generous giving day of the year. And it's a great opportunity for you to fundraise. And so these workshops are all about, yeah, sorry, Margie, these workshops, and I'll go back to the slides. So if you want to find out more about what happens in them, these are all the other workshops that you get access to as well. Donor surveys, how to optimize the online experience to convert more online gifts. But yeah, the end of year, many nonprofits, you guys, raise 20 to 50% of their entire operating budget at end of year fundraising. So, and if there's anything that I see that doesn't happen enough, that there's any mistake that I see consistently across the board with end of year fundraising, it's nonprofits not asking enough. I'm always shocked at how many organizations are only sending out a couple of emails, and a couple of emails won't do. You're going to have to send out, your donors don't read every single email that you send. They absolutely don't. So that's why you need to send multiple emails. Krista said, I was tearing up before the kids found out they got both gifts. So sweet. The love of humanity needs kids demonstrate my belief. That's awesome. I'm glad you liked the video. So Holly asked a great question. I'll just take a couple more of these. Holly asked, is it okay to write a client's story in the first person as though they wrote it? You can, and you know, if you use their name, you want to have their permission, or you can change their names. And I would always just put a footnote when I change names and images, and my donors completely respected that. You know, a lot of the examples of the stories that you saw, a copywriter, a fundraising copywriter interviewed a client. They interviewed someone that the organization was serving. So so that's something for you to think about. But you want to be working to collect stories, you know, every place that you can get them from. Awesome. So is there anything that, Abby, that you want to add, or is there any question that I didn't cover that you want me to grab? Oh, here's one from Rebecca. I'll grab this really quick. Rebecca asked, how long should an appeal letter be? Okay, so email is different than direct mail. Email, 300 to 500 words. It's going to be short. It's going to be short sentences. You're going to use short sentences in a direct mail appeal as well, but typically in direct mail, longer works better. You're going to ask multiple times in the email and in the direct mail, but you're going to first explain what the gift will do before you start to solicit the gift. But a direct mail piece could be, it could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages, it could be 4 pages. So it really all depends. There's a lot of diversity there. There was a question from Rita who said, what if you're raising money for an endowment and there's no urgency? So, you know, urgency tells me why I need to do it now and why I shouldn't just put it off indefinitely. So maybe there is a fake urgency that you can create, but urgency is really what inspires people to take action. A deadline, maybe there's a match, maybe you can identify a match for your endowment to give your endowment some a sense of urgency. So you guys will, and I'll go back over here to my email address. That's where you can grab today's handouts. I want to be sensitive to our time because we didn't go too far over. We only went like 3 minutes over. If I haven't answered your question yet, feel free to type it in. Carolyn Dunn asked, how do you create an emotional story about environmental education? You are limited, Carolyn, only by your own creativity. So the story could be from an inanimate object. It could be from an animal. It could be from, you know, like an animal who was impacted by the bad pollution. I read a really great appeal that was written by a kidney, and it was on behalf of a kid, and it was a sick kidney on how bad they'd let this kid down. So you could have a different narrator tell the story. Writing stories is not like as simple as it seems, and I want to really acknowledge that. So, you know, when a lot of you are like, tell me how to write, tell me this story, give me a story right now that's going to make everyone cry. This is a really good reason for building a culture of storytelling and rewarding storytelling and soliciting stories and studying storytelling and doing professional development around storytelling, because it's an art. And of course, there's always copywriters as well. But I also want to encourage you too. I get inspired by stories all around me, and I get inspired. I send a lot of emails. I'm inviting people. If you join me and you're on my email list, you may have gotten an email from me inviting you to this webinar. QGive sends out emails inviting you to their webinars, and we have to think really hard about what subject line is going to get you to open our email and what copy in our email is going to motivate you to sign up for the webinar. So we're always, I mean, we're all in sales. I'm in sales when I'm trying to talk my 13-year-old twins into putting their dirty clothes in the dirty clothes basket. We're all in sales. And so I get inspired by all kinds of different things around me. I subscribe to a lot of different email lists from many different industries, and I get inspired a lot by the for-profit industry with subject lines that I get. So just be on the lookout. Inspiration is all around you. I'm gonna scroll up and look through a couple of these, but I want to invite you, Abby, if there's any question that you saw that I didn't answer, let's see here. This is from Kimberly, who said, How do I motivate people to donate for a research project that takes place in a foreign country? So donors know the researcher and that the research is groundbreaking, but they not feel connected because the project takes place far away. I would stress how this research is going to be life-changing for them and how it can make the world a better place. You can always paint a picture of what that could look like. Okay, yay, Moody said, I'm pleased to be listening to this. We're doing a legal waste dumping campaign and most owners are not responding as much. I think we can improve from listening to this. Awesome. Yay. This was a lot of, oh, this is an interesting question from Nancy. I'm going to take this and then I'll stop because I could go on all day. Nancy said, is humor effective to an appeals story? This is a really great question. It kind of depends. You know, I've seen organizations use humor, and I've seen, like, I'm thinking of one organization that used a hilarious job using humor to recruit volunteers to sign up for a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. And the pitch was making fun of the Tiger King and the feud between Carol Baskin and Joe Exotic. And so it was a really good example of knowing your audience and using humor. Another great animal care example was an organization that used humor to do an adoption campaign for like senior dogs. And it was called the, excuse me here because I'm gonna cuss, it was called the Grown Ass Adult Campaign. And it was a hilarious and wildly successful campaign. And it really engaged people and people love it. And it definitely drove up senior adoptions. It was actually so successful that they expanded they expanded to cats. They expanded the campaign to also serve cats. So those are a couple examples of using humor in an appeals story. It really just depends. Both of those examples were, you know, campaigns. One was around recruiting volunteers to raise money, so it was around recruiting adults. The other one was around getting senior dogs adopted. So it really just kind of depends on your audience and your angle and your goal. If, you know, you can use a lot of different emotions to bring someone in, but if my goal is getting you to have empathy, and all fundraising is a quest for empathy, you know, then that humor may not be what inspires me to make a donation. So it really just depends. I hope that is helpful. Okay, so we've gone like about 10 minutes over. I want to be respectful of time. You have my contact information, and I will turn this this speaker baton back to Abby.
This was such a great presentation, Rachel. Thank you. I
You're
did not anticipate crying, so that was a fun surprise for my day. That boys and girls, that killed me, dude. Killed me. So good. All right. Everyone, you have been so engaged and so fun today. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for sharing ideas and looking at ideas. I hope this gave you some inspiration as you move into your year-end fundraising. Do keep an eye out on your email inboxes. The recording and links to all of the resources will go out tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out for that. You'll also get some other articles that will help you with storytelling and an invitation to an upcoming webinar with our friend Stephen Shattuck over at Bloomerang. So keep an eye out for that. Everyone else, have a great day.
Thank you.